People are so afraid of their quote-unquote self. They live in such angst of giving their self any kind of validation, respect, and most of all, love. I see this again and again, that people are invalidating themselves, deflecting and deferring to God. This is because most people only have an awareness of the third dimension. This one dimension of the five senses. And they think that everything about them in this human self is bad or flawed or evil. And in their unconscious is this mentality, this feeling that only God is good, right? And we are undeserving of anything good. But you are a multi-dimensional being. In fact, you have 5 dimensions. Your being is made up of 5 dimensions. That's why you have 5 fingers. But because most people are unaware of the other dimensions, their spiritual and etheric dimension of their being, they fully identify with just the human. And the human is wrought with weaknesses and problems. And so it's very hard to fall in love with your 3-dimensional self. In fact, most of us loathe ourselves, and that is why we can never rise above a certain vibration, because of this self-loathing. Anytime I speak of self, I am not primarily referring to ego, although I am now including my ego in the whole of my self-love, in the focus of all of it, all 5 dimensions together, unified, holistically. And because of this, I can't speak evil of any part of me, not even the ego. And ego is a little bit like the stepchild. It's neglected. It's not liked. Sometimes it's even abused. Often, actually, it's abused. And ego is simply reactionary to this neglect and abuse, because we don't show it any consideration, any love at all. Behind your ego is a wounded inner child. And ego, one could say, ego is the friend that has come in to protect your wounded child. And ego most certainly acts out inappropriately and hurtful in many cases in the defense of your inner child and your trauma wounds. But you have to love what ego does. You have to love your inner child. You have to love all aspects of yourself. And that's why you need to become self-focused, so that you can do that healing work. See, we can go all our lives suppressing our inner child, suppressing ourself, our ego. Well, we can't suppress ego. Ego pops its head up at every occasion. You're not even aware that you're doing it. But we have to stop suppressing the inner child. We have to stop suppressing the self. It's going to have its say. It's going to get its voice through your ego. You might think you're not an ego because you're so religiously or spiritually minded, but that's just the mask of your spiritual ego, defending the inner child with spiritual platitudes and spiritual knowledge. It's still ego. Ego will only be tamed, will only be lessened in strength, lessened in its reactionary response by loving, by acknowledging the inner child, by loving the inner child, by loving yourself. If you only love God and never love yourself, never give yourself that wonderful attention that you give God, if you never give that to yourself, you can never heal. The truth is, yourself, your true self, is an aspect of God. It's your soul. It is an aspect of God. And in loving yourself, in devoting your energies to yourself, to your soul, you are in fact properly loving God. Because God does not exist anywhere else except through the manifestation and expression of your soul. Your soul is a direct link and a direct piece to God, to the divine. So you must have a relationship with your soul in order to have the right relationship with God. And that always comes back to using the word self. Unfortunately, the word self has to represent 5 different aspects of us, and ego is only one of them. You must love yourself. You must acknowledge yourself. You must honor yourself. You must respect yourself. You must love yourself. In loving yourself, you are loving God. Don't be afraid of the word self. This fear is only coming up because of your subconscious, frightened inner child. Because as a child, you were put down and diminished so much that that has become your identity. It's time to elevate that little child and stop treating it like a stepchild. You deserve to be loved for more than the love of God. You deserve to love yourself. So love yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You will never hurt yourself. You will never hurt yourself. It's healthy. It's normal to love yourself. The world has told us it's not normal. But we were wrong. Without self-love, we cannot become love to others. So, again, do not fear the word self. It's not evil.